there is some sort of discrimination, like when someone is considered with disability, for an employer, it becomes like an intellectual limitation, like literally. And that means that person doesn't have access to something that match their requirement, but instead has access to only like, you know, the lowest of the lowest of the lowest of the lowest.
Correct.
So what can be done here?
I think it's really around two things, right? Because government can certainly say we have a law, for example, to provide reasonable accommodation for people with disabilities, that if, say, for example, a blind person, you give them text-to-speech software like JAWS so that you can use the computer and they can do their job like everybody else. That's reasonable accommodation. But I think it also takes a lot of societal will and respect and understanding that we're no different from anybody else, and we can do the same job. Yes, because of our disability, it might be a little bit different. We might not be able to do 100% of the job. We might be able to do 80% of the component of the job, but jobs can easily be redesigned and rejigged if we value every person on earth and we want to create a place for every person. I'll illustrate with this kind of thought that popped in my head. I remember when I was a little kid and I could still see, and I was in the US to check out my eyesight when I was 8. I was utterly amazed that they had regular chairs and they had giant chairs that were for people that were really, really big. At the like a food court place that I was at, and so there were chairs and there were baby chairs for little kids, and that kind of struck me that in those days there weren't all these options. Like you see that in Singapore now when you go to, say, IKEA or even some hawker centers, you have baby chairs, you have regular chairs, and then you have tables without chairs. So wheelchairers can wheel under the table, wheel against the table and sit there without the chairs being in the way.
Yeah, I see. I see what you mean. Like, and having some sort of understanding, you know, among employers, that someone with disability, you know, provided that the qualifications are there, right?
Yes,
because that's what you were talking about, a fair and equal treatment.
Correct. And ultimately, it's about, you know, reasonable accommodation. It's not pitying the disabled person or giving them charity or shortchanging yourself as an employer. Reasonable accommodation, it's really about just leveling the playing field. And if the disabled person does not have the qualification, is not smart enough, not good enough, then yes, they should not be employed. The best description I have is actually Disneyland in Tokyo. I went to Disneyland and they gave me a Braille map of the whole place, which is amazing because it allowed me to know where I'm going. And they told me that most of the rides, about maybe 80%, they will provide a ramp. So me and Esme, my guide dog at that time, could get on the rides. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I could like enjoy Disneyland like anybody else. They leveled their playing field. And then they told me this, but you don't get an express pass. If you want to take the express queue, you got to buy the express pass ticket. For the first 10 seconds, I was like, you mean I don't get it with this magical package? And then I thought to myself, like, hey, it's fair. Because if I want people to level the playing field for me, so I have a Braille map and a ramp to get on the rides without falling down, then, which is what other regular patrons to Disneyland have, right? They have a paper map. They have eyes or legs that they can walk up without the ramp. Then if they have to pay for an express pass to cut queue, so should I. And that's what reasonable accommodation is at the end of the day. It isn't about just giving discounts for no rhyme or reason, but just about leveling the playing field. So a disabled person can also partake in the activity or the job or whatever it is.